On the 5th of August 2022, the final episode of my podcast, Exterminating Doctor Who, was released, and since then, this channel has been radio silent. But with a few new videos in the pipeline, I'm back. A new era of Doctor Who dawns, so to celebrate, a new ranking video seems the best place to begin again. With 2 more Doctors still on their way though, I will use this chance to instead rank the second most famous Time Lord, the Master. The Doctor's former best friend and forever arch-nemesis, the Master first appeared on our screens in 1971 and has been a permanent fixture of Doctor Who villainy ever since. Appearing in several disguises and new bodies, there have been a few Masters both on-screen and off. So as usual, a few terms and conditions. For this list I am including only performed Masters. I won't be limiting this to only the TV show, but that does mean any incarnations exclusive to books or comics will not be included, as they do not have an actor attached. I will also only be including mainline Masters, which means Mark Gatiss' Unbound Master is out of the question, and so is Gordon Tipple's brief cameo in the TV movie. So with that out of the way, we can stare into the untempered schism and start the ranking. Coming in at 12th place is Peter Pratt. Now, technically this incarnation, known by fans as the Crispy Master, was portrayed by 2 different actors. But despite these actors sharing the same incarnation, they both played it quite differently, so I am separating them. We'll see the other actor a bit later on. Even though Peter Pratt comes in last place, that doesn't mean I dislike him. In fact, the sheer desperation of this version I actually really like.
You do not understand hatred as I understand it. Only hate keeps me alive. Why else should I endure this pain?
This is a Master who is clinging on to life after running out of regenerations, desperately trying to scheme his way into getting more. He's scary and menacing and feels like one of the most villainous incarnations of them all. However, for me, the Master has to be so much more than that. The Master for me is the James Bond villain of Doctor Who, someone smooth, suave and charming. Having these desperate and manic tendencies are nice quirks, but should never be the overriding factors. In a way, Pratt's portrayal feels just too on edge and at the end of his tether, when I prefer a bit of confidence in my Masters. In 11th place is one I'm sure will cause some controversy. Sacha Dhawan.
Oh, it's a good entrance, right?
Now, if you've been a follower of my channel, you'll know the Chibnall era just wasn't for me, so this shouldn't come as a surprise. For some fans out there, Dhawan's Master was a highlight of the era, even if, like me, they weren't fussed on the rest of it. But I personally never gelled with this Master. He feels like a caricature, a base misunderstanding of the character. New Who's Masters have generally been on the craziest side, but this was just a step too far. When the Master's characterization fails, he is always criticised as being a moustache-twirling panto villain, and that's exactly how I feel about this one. I'm half expecting a "I'll get you next time" or "this isn't the last you've seen of me" cheesy line whenever he's on screen, and find myself rolling my eyes at Dhawan's overacting and forced delivery. Please don't interpret that as me saying Dhawan is a bad actor, because like Jodie Whittaker, I've absolutely loved his performances in every other thing I've seen him in. Prior to his casting as the Master, he was even on my list of actors I'd like to see play the Doctor. As the Master though, he just chews the scenery and comes across hopelessly inauthentic. It's not all bad though, as his role in The Power of the Doctor suggested a nice spin that this is an incarnation with a deep self-hatred, but this was just too little too late. In 10th place, James Dreyfus, the transphobe Master. Sorry, I mean the first Master. Okay, this is one where we've got to separate the art from the artist, as I am well aware of Dreyfus's past comments. Thankfully though, it's not too difficult to make this separation, as there's nothing particularly special about this incarnation. This is the first Big Finish incarnation in this list, and quite fittingly, this is intended as the first of the Master's regenerations. James Dreyfus's portrayal is on the smooth and suave spectrum of the character that I much prefer, but other than that, there's nothing particularly memorable about his performance. A villain with a posh accent, a Master does not make. Whether it's intended or not, this version of the Master is actually quite pathetic. His schemes are basic and predictable, and even the Doctor sees him as an easy threat. In Blood of the Time Lords, set immediately after the Deadly Assassin, when the Doctor realises that the villain he faces is the First Master, he almost relaxes, as if it wouldn't be a challenge to defeat him.
I have created a machine capable of wiping the entire universe clean, leaving only me at its center, unsullied and triumphant. So, my question is when, Doctor? When are you going to start taking me seriously?
This attitude isn't unique to just Blood of the Time Lords either, as the Doctor dismisses and easily defeats him in all of this Master's other appearances. And maybe that's the point. Maybe this Master this early in his career hasn't worked it all out yet, but I just find that quite boring and uninteresting. Into 9th place, and we have Eric Roberts.
I always dress for the occasion.
The Master, who usually sits at the bottom of most people's rankings, there's actually a fair bit I like about this Master. Don't get me wrong, he is ridiculous and comes across more like a stunted Terminator at times, but one of the most important things for a Master is the pairing with their Doctor. The 8th Doctor is regarded as a very romantic Doctor, so I like that this is a romantic Master. Though this isn't a very threatening or very serious Master, his smooth American tone gives him that charm that I like for Masters. He can also be very manipulative and revels in his own evil. Take Masterful as an example, where he discovers the Crispy Master living a peaceful life with a woman who doesn't know what he looks like. He immediately sets out to ruin this lifestyle.
I'm happy.
Wow,
Go. Play your games. I'll sit this one out.
fair enough. She loves you.
Really?
She loves the real you. I've spoken to her.
Indeed you have.
And she loves you, not the illusion you wear.
Oh?
Far be it from me to tell you what to do,
No.
but go see her without the perception filter.
Really?
She loves the real you. She won't care. She won't even notice.
His seemingly encouraging words are delivered in such a tone that makes this Master more subtly menacing, and what could be more evil than deliberately ruining your own happiness? At 8th place is one that'll raise some eyebrows, Milo Parker. I haven't included the William Hughes Child Master because he only briefly appears in the TV show with no dialogue. However, the aforementioned Masterful features another version of this young Master who is actually more interesting than you might think. Technically an earlier version of James Dreyfus's Master, Milo Parker comes across as a bratty child filled with self-importance and delusions of grandeur. It takes the character back to his original intentions for leaving Gallifrey.
When I considered rebellion against our people, looking out into the universe, I thought when I finally left, I'd have a vision, a grand plan, but this...
In this story, this Master manages to take command of a refugee ship as a way to assert his dominance, but dismays at the behaviour of his later selves.
Is she what I become?
I know, right? A jackpot!
Capering around like a pantomime villain in a pointless disguise.
This version of the Master strips everything to his core. There are no theatrics, no crazy ravings, just a pure greed for power. I find this self-reflection fascinating and makes for a really interesting iteration. Continuing with another Big Finish Master in 7th, we have Alex McQueen. Now, if some Masters can be seen as panto villains, I think Alex McQueen is more of a panto dame. Easily the campest Master and the one with the most jokes, this might just be one of the most fun incarnations.
I was going to say, maybe you need to see a shrink. That's what I was going to say, because it would have been quite amusing, with shrink being slang for psychiatrist, and because I was going to shrink him, it would have been a pun.
If you want to make the Master crazy, this is one of the better ways to do it in my opinion. Making jokes at inappropriate times, disguising just for the fun of it, killing people because he can, and creating plans that fail just because he's become too ambitious and cocky. This Master always has multiple schemes at once, and always anticipates being double-crossed. He really feels like a Master manipulator. My complaint really with this Master is that he just doesn't feel very threatening. He's a delight to listen to, but I never feel he's creating much threat, and the Doctor rarely treats him as such either. He certainly racks up a high kill count, but I could probably survive being put in a room with him. An entertaining incarnation, but not the most villainous. Crossing the halfway mark in 6th place is Anthony Ainley. What a silly Master this is. This is the Abanazar of Masters, and yet he never crosses into caricature like Sacha Dhawan does. Ainley's line delivery can often be more muted and subtle.
I thought that last mad scheme of yours had finished you for good.
You jest, of course. I'm indestructible. The whole universe knows that.
Is that so?
Even though he's often running around in disguises that are still blatantly him, or wearing big collars like this, he still feels a very faithful continuation of what Roger Delgado set out before him. This Master is somewhat limited in that he stretches across the eras of Doctors 4 to 7, so he never truly has a one-on-one dynamic with any of them. He very much becomes just another returning Monster of the Week. But when he does, he's always memorable and is a joy to watch, even when his stories aren't very good. Fans refer to this incarnation as the Tremas Master, due to the fact he takes on the body of Nissa's deceased father of the same name. Well, technically it was the Crispy Master who stole Tremas's body, which also means that this version and the Crispy Master are the same incarnation, and Eric Roberts because he was just another body swap, but that's just if you're being technical. He might be a bit naff at times, but this is a quietly evil Master who might fit the bill of being the Doctor's arch nemesis more than any of the others. Into the top 5 now with John Sim, in 5th place. The Master who set out the crazy template, this is a version more hyper and energetic than any that came before. Constantly bouncing off the walls and driven mad by the drum beats in his head, it might be contradictory for me to place John Sim so high when Sacha Dhawan was so low. But for Sim, there is a reason for his madness. Those drum beats had been dormant in his head throughout his life before finally becoming loud enough that he can't ignore them any longer.
The noise in my head, Doctor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Stronger than ever before. Can't you hear it?
Plus, Sim's energetic portrayal plays off of Tennant's energetic Doctor. They are a perfect pairing, like two sides of the same coin. You can genuinely believe that these two characters were friends once before going in separate ways.
Just regenerate, come on. I'll spend the rest of my life imprisoned with you. You've got to, come on. You can't end like this. You and me, all the things we've done.
And even though he's crazy, he still taps into that manipulative charm to convince a nation to vote him Prime Minister, a plan which he repeats twice. Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is, after all, the definition of madness. Though I'm not keen on his performance in The End of Time, as he borders into that too crazy territory. And why can he fly? His return in World Enough and Time really delivered on my favourite version of this Master. With the drum beats gone from his head, he mellows somewhat into a more classic Master, goatee included. He still comes across as a crazy psychopath, but in a more traditionally evil way. This was the closest the New Who Master came to that Bond villain vibe. Still, Sim never delves deep enough into the suave side of the character for me to put him any higher in this ranking. In fourth place is the other crispy Master, Geoffrey Beevers. I said I'd come back to him later, so here he is. Despite only appearing in one TV story, Beevers has cemented himself as one of the all-time greats with his time at Big Finish. It was a genius move for the audios to use this version, as Beevers' voice is brilliant to listen to. I find myself genuinely terrified by this incarnation, and that's just from his voice. Could you imagine what this version would have been like if he'd been given the chance to shine on TV, especially with that face? You know that thing I said earlier about probably being able to survive an encounter with the Alex McQueen Master? Yeah, there's no surviving this one.
Don't shoot! Why not? I don't know who you are, what you want. I care nothing for you. Your lives are meaningless. Only as potential victims can you please me. I would enjoy watching you die.
Driven mad by his lack of regenerations and decayed body, Beevers doesn't simply portray the Master in the same desperate way that Peter Pratt did. He instead manages to be charming, suave and sophisticated. For a Master that looks so outwardly disgusting, it's truly a testament that he manages to be so wonderful. Though he sometimes uses a perception filter to look more appealing, there are times he still manages to charm people even when in his true form. But even though he can come across as a kindly old gentleman, he can turn on a sixpence and instantly fill you with dread.
Look into my eyes, giggler.
I don't want to.
Into my eyes. I can make you my puppet. I can make you dance to any tune I like. I can make you climb to the top of this ramshackle building and throw yourself from it and laugh as you do so. For I am your master, and you will obey me.
If you don't believe me on this Master, check out the short trip I Am the Master, written and performed by Beevers. It's 40 minutes recounting a past scheme of the Master's. It's delightful, just like this incarnation. And in third place is the original, Roger Delgado. Now, what can be said about Roger Delgado that hasn't been said before? Delgado's captivating performance is what allowed the character to be as popular as it is. The most suave, the most sophisticated, the most Bond villain version of the Master that there is. This incarnation set out all the most important factors from the off.
Death is always more frightening when it strikes invisibly.
So much of what we associate with the character today are things that Delgado brought to the role. This is a Master who would be so sure of himself, so confident in his schemes, that he would resort to any desperate attempt at escape when they went wrong. Appearing in a third of all Third Doctor stories, there is a risk that you could become sick of seeing this Master, but that never happens.
I have devoted my life to the cause of law and order. And law and order can only exist in a time of peace.
You feeling all right, Olger?
Every time he appears is a happy one. Well, for the audience anyway. I think the countless characters he shrinks would probably disagree. You can't wait to see what monster he's teamed up with, what dastardly plot he's concocted, or how he will battle the Doctor this time. He can be cheeky, silly or outrageous, but that sense of laid-back menace and danger never leaves him. Behind his eyes you can always see him coming up with new plans, backup plans and escape routes. Of all the Masters to seek universal domination, I think I believe this one could achieve it most. Second place is always the one that kills two birds with one stone, as, by process of elimination, you can work out who has made it to first place. But we'll come on to that shortly, and for the time being discuss Michelle Gomez. Even though the Crazy Masters haven't fared too well on this list, it's impressive to see an incarnation as crazy as Missy make it to second place.
You are utterly mad!
No, I'm just the only one who stopped pretending to be sane.
Missy is easily the most unpredictable and wild regeneration of them all. You never quite know what she will do next, or who is safe around her, or what she's really thinking. You can never tell if the situation she finds herself in is part of a grand plot or a complete accident. And I love that. In some ways she's the perfect middle ground between the charming and the crazy masters. It's clear she creates grand plots and orchestrates events to go her way, but downplays her conniving nature, instead playing up and exaggerating her insanity. Her erratic nature is a perfect counterbalance for the mellow and reflective 12th Doctor, and the pair easily have the greatest Doctor-Master relationship of them all. The weight of their friendship and the sense that they both so desperately want to rekindle it comes across throughout the 12th Doctor's era. The Series 10 arc of redeeming Missy is perhaps the greatest arc that has ever been taken with the Master, and leads to a truly heartbreaking conclusion. It added a depth to the character at a time they most needed it, and showed that the Master is best when those considerations that they were once good are brought to the forefront. She's endlessly likeable, and the prime example of how to make the Master crazy, all the while keeping those core aspects of the character.
No, I've not turned good.
And that leaves us with just one more place to discuss. In first place, Derek Jacobi. If the only Masters you have experienced have been on TV, you are probably baffled as to how Jacobi has made it to number 1, seeing as he only has mere minutes of screen time as the Master. But it is all thanks to Big Finish and their spectacular The War Master series. Honestly, I'd nominate the War Master series as the best thing Big Finish have ever done. Jacobi's Master is like a lovable granddad. He's charming, funny, suave, all the usual attributes of the Master, but weirdly cozy and wholesome too. He has his own vineyard, enjoys the finer things in life, and even takes on his own companion. But never, ever take this Master at face value, because he would cut you in an instant. The things that this Master has done on audio are truly shocking. From encouraging a colony of workers to kill themselves, to taunting Nyssa about using her father's body, using people to make weapons for the Time War, turning a whole village against someone for a crime they did not commit, leaving people stranded in space, and even altering history to make himself creator of the Daleks. This Master is purely and simply evil.
I have burned planets to cinders and swept civilizations out of time. Whole galaxies have been wiped out because I willed it. I killed beings made of stars and turned universes to ice. You are so concerned with getting inside my head that you didn't consider what might happen if I saw inside yours. Well, you've given me plenty of time to study what you are, and you are nothing but a parasite. You think you can survive me? I am the Master, and I will destroy you!
Even in the few minutes he becomes the Master on TV, he is terrifying. The switch from the kindly Professor Yana personality is one he does frequently, but seeing it on TV especially signals the sheer change that this incarnation can undertake. His threats to Chantho and ultimate murder send chills down my spine. He represents everything the Master should be for me. Psychotic and dangerous, yet unassuming and, well, masterful. During his countless deadly escapades, you find yourself rooting for him and sharing his delight in villainy. Everything he does is delightful, and Jacobi's expert performance only helps to enhance this. There is only so far that being totally evil and moustache twirling can get you in your schemes, but having that dichotomy of a friendly demeanour paired with truly heinous acts is what causes his plans to succeed. If it weren't for Big Finish, his few minutes alone would carry him high on this ranking, but the expansion that this incarnation has received on audio takes him straight to the top. An incredible actor, given incredible character work, and an incredible theme tune, makes for what I think is the best Master of them all.
Look at me. All of you. Look into my eyes. You can see all that I've done and could do. Now, if you think you're my equal, carry on looking at me. The others, look away.
And that brings us to the end. What's your rankings of the Masters? Do you agree with me? Thank you for watching, if indeed you still are, and I will see you next time.